Hello again, everyone. I'm here with another travel palette swatching video. I have already taken out the swatch book from the Chic Sparrow narrow notebook that I keep it in. I'm going to put a link below to this setup video where I talk about everything that's in there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and get started with this today. So this is a handmade palette that I made with a business card case from Amazon. And I have shown this on the channel before. I will put a link down below to the video where I talk about the process of making this, and there were some other palettes included in that. But today I'm going to be swatching all the colors that are in here. And this one is a really kind of exciting palette. It has a lot of Gram colors because I kind of determined that I was not going to use this as an actual travel palette because Gram tends to be a little sticky, and if you're in a damp environment it could spill out into other colors. So basically this is one that I leave on my desk as sort of a fun mixing palette. I have a lot of greens, I have a lot of blues. It's just a really pleasant palette to work with, and the Gram colors are beautiful, and I kind of lament the fact that I cannot use them in travel palettes for the most part. They're just a little too sticky because these have been in here for quite some time and they still have a little bit of tack to them if you touch them. I mean, would it be okay? Probably so here in Colorado where it's very dry. You can see some of these other colors have completely dried out and now are just kind of, you know, loose in there. But if I were to take this traveling, like on an actual flight somewhere and all of that, I would not feel comfortable taking the Gram paints in this little thing here. So Gram, I have not really talked about Gram too much on the channel. They are really, really lovely. They're American-made paints. They're super high in pigment. The reason why, at least I think, that they are somewhat sticky is because they use a lot of honey in their process. But it also leads to a really smooth painting experience that's really quite nice. So let's go ahead and get going and swatching, and I can talk a little bit more about some of the individual colors as we encounter them. And towards the end, I will tell you what colors I've chosen for the little triad here, and then we'll swatch those and mix those. So this is a two-pager today because I do have so many different colors in here. I managed to jam quite a few colors into this business card holder here. So I have my little swatches for my own reference here. I'm going to move those when I need to do some mixing at the end because my mixing area is back here. I have put whiteboard sticker onto the top of this business card case to serve as my mixing area, and that surface works really well. I have never had any issues with it staining really badly or anything like that. So for now I am going to zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better, and I will just do one page and then do the next page. I'm going to put that there actually so you can see some of the palette while I am swatching. All right, so I'm going from top to bottom, I believe. I'm not sure what I did with the greens. Oh, it looks like I put the greens that are here in a separate row way down here on the bottom. So I have gone this way for these and then over and then with these. So that may not have made sense to you, but believe me, as we go through, it'll make a little bit more sense. So the first color is Graham Azo Yellow. And as with a lot of the other paints that I have, the Gram do not require re-wetting necessarily before you start painting because they re-wet really, really easily. And they have a lot of really beautiful, bright colors. So this is the Azo Yellow, like I was saying, and as usual with some of these really bright yellow colors, they don't really dilute all that much unless you're really, really diluting them out. So we're not going to get a whole lot of color variation in the diluted squares there. And I will put a link to all the previous videos in this series down below. And just really quickly, what I'm doing for each color is putting full strength up above, diluting with a little bit of water, as we go down and as we go down into these other two boxes there. And then for each palette, I have chosen a somewhat primary triad to mix at the end of the video. So this one is Gram Gamboge, which is a warm yellow. As usual, I have warm and cool primaries in this palette. Being a little bit messy, I have to reach around the palette that's here. It's not that convenient. It looks like I may need to dilute a little bit less because we're not getting a whole lot of pigment in the last two boxes there. So this next one is Gram Quin Red. Oh, I'm sorry, Quin Gold. I was looking at the red below it. This is Quin Gold. So I actually have three yellows, so to speak, in here. And Quin Gold could be used as an earth color, and I think I've mentioned that before as well. Quin Gold is one of my favorite yellow colors. I just feel like it leads to a lot of really nice mixes with different blues to create some really natural looking greens that aren't super nuclear. Yeah, and I am going to have to move this over just a little bit so that I can get into the boxes a little bit better with the color. In fact, well, let's see, I can probably move it up there and that might be a little bit better. So now we're moving to this next row of three here, and this is Gram Scarlet Pyrol, and this is a super bright warmish red. Leans a little bit more towards orange. And with the Gram colors, I have not noticed a lot of granulation. With the ultramarine, they have a really nice ultramarine blue that does granulate, which I think I have in here, which we'll get to at the end. And but for the most part, they're not necessarily known for their granulation. So this is Gram Quinacridone Rose, which is a really beautiful quinacridone rose. I think, though, that I still prefer the Daniel Smith a little bit over the Gram Quin Rose. It's kind of hard to beat the luminosity that you get with that Daniel Smith Quin Rose. Okay. And then the third red here is Gram Permanent Alizarin Crimson. And a lot of people will have a dual warm cool primary palette, and then they will actually have three reds. So you'll have a warm and a cool, and then you'll have more of an earthier red, which this kind of is. And there's some mixes that you can get with these particular types of reds that you can't really get with others. A lot of people even like the original Alizarin Crimson, even though it is not light fast, just because it does have very unique color mixes. So on this next row, I've added just sort of a variety of colors. This one is Vinci Theo Indigo Violet. And I tried to make this palette sort of an interesting mix of really bright and neutral colors. This was really just sort of a playing around palette, which I suppose a lot of them are, but this one in particular. And if you, I don't know that I've talked about Da Vinci colors either much on the channel. I was going to say, if you've watched my prior videos, you might have heard me talk about Da Vinci, but I don't know that I have talked about them yet really much. So Vinci is not my favorite watercolor brand, just because their colors are just, I feel like they're just a little bit blah. I mean, they're beautiful. They have highly pigmented colors that are really beautiful, but I just feel like they don't add a whole lot to the party that other colors wouldn't add for me. So, but this is a really beautiful violet. And this color that I'm doing now, this is Gram Burnt Sienna. And I'm not sure how I feel about their burnt sienna. It's not necessarily something that blows me away, but it's a fairly good granulating burnt sienna. This is Daniel Smith Graphite, which is a graphite gray, and it's essentially opaque if you have a thick layer on there. And it would be really good to use in a very minimal palette if you were trying to just do black and white sketches, for example, because this would be, you could get a lot of different tones out of it, and it has a little bit of granulation, but it's not overwhelming, but it's really pretty. Okay, so now I believe I'm going down to the blues, and then the greens are going to be last. So this is, oh no, I had one more over here. Okay, I was like, where's my cerulean? So this is Daniel Smith Cerulean Chromium, which is a favorite of mine for cool blues that are not super green leaning, like a phthalo blue. And this is sort of a subtle, light, cool blue that's really nice for skies, for example. It's just really pretty. And it's nice and granulating. So this next color is Gram Ultramarine, and this is actually a really beautiful ultramarine that granulates very well. Of the Gram colors that granulate, this one is my favorite. Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, as per usual, I'm forgetting to put it up. Okay, so I'm going to put that right there. And it just has a very nice feel on the paper. I actually, if I could travel with Gram colors, I probably would replace my ultramarine Daniel Smith, or my French ultramarine Daniel Smith, in my travel palettes with this blue, because it is really, really pretty and makes really beautiful mixes. Okay, the next one is Gram Phthalo Blue. So with blue, I went beyond the cool and warm colors. Blue's my favorite color, and I really love to mix greens. So the more blues I have, the more yellows I have, the more greens I can mix. So maybe we could call this a green palette, because there are so many blues and there's a wide variety of yellows. And then I have all the greens in addition. So perhaps it's a green palette. All right, so then this next one, what does DR stand for? I think it's Daler Rowney. Yeah. So this is a Daler Rowney in Danthrone Blue. And Daler Rowney, it's artist quality, but I don't have a lot of colors by them, because kind of the same reason I'm just so-so about Vinci is that I feel like they don't really add a whole lot to the party that I can't get in other brands. And they're harder to get and more expensive than, say, Daniel Smith. Oh boy, let me actually dab that off and do that again. That was a little messy. I had like a hand twitch there. Okay, so then this next one is Da Vinci Indigo Violet. Or I'm sorry, it's just Indigo. Da Vinci Indigo. Sorry, I was thinking of the Theo Indigo Violet up there. So, oh, no, that went away, the little string. And it's very interesting to me how different every brand's indigo tends to be. Sometimes they're a little bit more bright blue, sometimes they're a little bit more muted. But I've generally liked most, if not all, indigos from all brands. They're just a deep blue is really one of my favorite colors. Okay, and so then the last one on this row, as you can see here, is MB. What's MB? MB. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't put an abbreviation for that. MB. Maybe I meant MG, because this might be the M Gram Phthalo turquoise. I'm not sure. I will make any corrections in the comment section down below if I find out that this is actually not M Gram. Oh, no. So this is Mermaid Blue. That is the brand, Mermaid Blue, which is an Italian brand of watercolors. I forgot. I must not have put it in my list because I didn't remember that I had this here. So now it's time for the greens. So looks like I'm going, oh, well, these were reversed. That's probably part of the reason why I was confused here. So I'm starting from top to bottom. We have a green gold by Da Vinci. And green gold is one of those colors that I didn't really use a lot and I didn't really particularly like, but I've recently started using it more and have really started liking it. It makes some really neat mixes, sort of muddy but pretty mixes, and it can be nice on its own too in certain circumstances. Okay. And then I have Daniel Smith Undersea Green, which is a beautiful color. It is a mix of a couple of different colors, which are eluding me right now, but it is really pretty. I think it might be Ultramarine Blue and Quin Gold. I think that might be it, but it's really pretty. And you could mix this yourself, but it's kind of nice to have it as a convenience mix. Okay, so this next one is Daniel Smith Prussian Green, and this is one that I really don't use much at all, but is so beautiful that that's part of the reason why I put it in here, so that I would try to use it more. It's a really lovely green that has a little bit of a bluish cast to it. Right, and then we're to the last color, which is Daniel Smith Hooker's Green, which again is not really a color I use very often. The Prussian Green and the Hooker's Green I purchased from a shop that was going out of business, and they were deep discounted. And at the time I was really interested in trying out a whole bunch of different greens, which, you know, when am I not interested in trying out a bunch of different greens? So the Hooker's Green and Prussian Green are not necessarily colors I would normally purchase, but I did because they were on deep discount, and they're very lovely. I think that for the Hooker's Green, I probably would not use it alone. I probably would mix it with either yellow or blue to kind of go one way or another to make it a little bit less bright, because it's a little too bright. It doesn't feel like a very natural green to me. These other ones can probably would probably be more natural, but again, the Prussian Green, because it has that blue in it, it's kind of hard to find where it would be appropriate to use. But it's beautiful. I think I might end up using it more in abstract paintings. Okay, so I'm going to do it a little differently this time. I'm going to hold the palette up when I'm doing my mixes here, just so that I can tilt the mixing area so that I can have that flat. So the colors that I chose, they're all M Gram, so this will be an M Gram mixing triad. I chose M Gram Ultramarine because I love it, it's beautiful. And then I chose M Gram Permanent Alizarin Crimson because I wanted to try something a little bit more dark and interesting. and then Gram Azo Yellow. So we should be able to get some really nice, almost neutral mixes out of these colors. So let's go ahead and see what we can get. So again, I will start with the red just because that is at the top. So this is the Permanent Alizarin Crimson by Gram. And I'm pretty sure, well, don't hold me to this. I was going to say I think it's a mix, but I think Gram may actually have a single pigment Permanent Alizarin Crimson. I would have to go check. Okay, and then I'm going to mix the yellow, which I have chosen as the Azo Yellow. Let me make sure. Okay, so that's actually this one, which is fairly bright. For some reason I thought, oh, it's because I was confusing Azo Yellow with Nickel Azo Yellow, which is more like a quinacridone gold. So yeah, this one is not going to be as neutral a mix. Oh, I washed off my brush before adding it to this mix here. Okay. So, and that Permanent Alizarin Crimson is going to be really strong and overpowering. I'm going to add a little bit more. Okay, so that's more of a orange to go in the middle here. And these colors are so nice and creamy. I really like them. Because I've already said that my favorite watercolor brands, Daniel Smith is first, Schmincke is second, and Core is third. And I would say that Core and Gram might actually be tied for third, but they're so different in their qualities that it's kind of hard to choose. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit more yellow to one side of this to have a more yellowy orange mix here to go here. And then rinse my brush, but dry it off a little bit. And then I'm going to add more of that red to this side to have more of a reddish orange. Yeah, that's actually a really good range there. Okay, so because I don't have any compartments in this mixing area, I am going to wipe that off. Oops. Yes, that's the problem with using a napkin that has water-soluble fountain pen ink on it already. Okay, that did stain a little bit. Maybe it's just because that is so staining, but normally I haven't been having that issue. And it shouldn't come off into other mixes. Okay, so now let's do the blue, which I chose as Ultramarine. Let me make sure I know which one that is. Okay, that's the second one here. Okay. It's a really lovely ultramarine. Okay, I'm going to put that up here in the mixing area. And I'm going to mix with red first, top to bottom. So here is the Alizarin Crimson mixed with that. So that's definitely a more muted purple than we would get with a couple of cool colors, but it's beautiful. I think that's a beautiful purple. Okay, so on one side I'm going to do a little bit more red. Got a little bit more of a reddish purple there. And then with the other side, I'm going to do a little bit more blue to get a bluish purple. All right, so again, I'll wipe that off. Yeah, I think these are just super staining colors. You can always wash this off with a brush cleaner. Like you can add a little bit of brush cleaner to a paper towel or a cloth and rub it on here, and that would clean it right up. So, okay, so let me get more of the blue here in my mixing area. And then go to the Azo Yellow so we can get our green in the middle. That's actually a very beautiful green with some granulation that's really nice from the blue. Okay, gonna add a little bit more yellow to one side. Oops, might need a little bit more. And then a little bit more blue on the other side. Yeah, and this leads to some really beautiful teals. Like that's a lovely, lovely teal color. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to mix in a little red, but if you've watched any of these videos before, it's generally kind of hard to get it with a neutral, but then like here, I think I got a neutral right off the bat. I was just getting ready to tell you this might take a little while, and then there it is. Okay, so there's our neutral brown in the middle. And the reason why I'm not trying to get to a black in the middle is because you would have to have different ratio of the three different colors in order to make a black, and this is really supposed to be 1 to 1 to 1. So this is the neutral that you get when it's 1 to 1 to 1. I still plan on doing a separate video on mixing blacks at some point. Again, my YouTube video queue has gotten so large that it's very hard to do all the things within a reasonable period of time. Okay, so let's see if I can move out even a little bit more here. There you go. Put those back in the box. So there you go. There are all the colors in my little handmade palette in a business card case. And I think that's it for today. All right, as usual, feel free to like and or subscribe, and please do subscribe so that you can know when I'm doing future swatching videos. There's only a few left here, but you don't want to miss them. All right, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, bye.